Welcome back to The Lead, live from Capitol Hill, where right now it is time for our politics lead. In 5 hours, the president is expected to make the case that if we want to keep the American dream alive, the government has a significant role to play. From raising the minimum wage to paying for college and retirement security, President Obama has not shied away from blaming Congress for the lack of movement on these issues. And tonight he will lay out a strategy for getting around a divided Congress. Joining us now with the Republican take, Senator Rob Portman of Ohio. Senator Portman, good to see you. The White House making this case. The president's going to say he wants to work in a bipartisan fashion, but if he can't, he's willing to go it alone, do some executive orders. What's your take?
My take is that he hasn't tried.
And he hasn't tried to work in a bipartisan fashion?
Right. I mean, look, there's a lot we can and should do. The economy is in terrible shape. We have record numbers of long-term unemployed in America. Under his watch, take-home pay has gone down $4,000 on average for the families that I represent. So, you know, things aren't working. And yet he has not come to Congress in a way that presidents that I've worked for, as you know, I've worked for a couple of them, have, and other Democrat presidents have. Bill Clinton is an example, who worked, you know, well with a guy named Newt Gingrich, who he didn't agree with on much, but he knew he had to work with him.
Can you give me an example of something that you wanted to work with the president and the White House on?
Okay. Regulatory reform. Everybody agrees regulations are choking small business. The president talks about it, does nothing. We've got a bipartisan bill. It's passed the House already. It's in the Senate. Get behind it. Support it. Tax reform. The president says he wants to reform the tax code. Everybody knows, huge shot in the arm. We're losing people, companies overseas. Let's do it. We've talked about it for enough time. The president needs to engage and provide cover for it. Energy. We've got a huge opportunity here in this country to open up more public lands to energy, to actually become energy independent, and to give the economy a shot.
I don't mean to interrupt.
Trade promotion authority. Yeah. How about that one?
Okay.
Everybody knows that helps grow the economy.
And so I know there's a fifth one also in there somewhere, but something that, I mean, because I hear Republicans and Democrats talk past each other all the time. Democrats have the Democratic bills, Republicans have the Republican bills.
That's not true. These are bipartisan bills. And you know, this is the problem, is that the administration, if they really wanted to engage, could get with us and work on these issues. Let's take stuff out of the president's own budget. You and I have talked about this one. But means testing in Medicare.
Making wealthier people pay a little bit more.
People may pay a little bit more for Part B and Part D. So it would be for doctor's visits and for prescription drugs. The president put it in his budget.
In the president's budget.
In the budget, and yet they will not work with us to try to implement that, to be able to save billions of dollars over the first 10 years, $56 billion, over the next 10, $450 billion, exactly the kind of things we should be doing to deal with the part of the budget that is on autopilot, that is causing us to go into these record debts.
So this is in the president's own budget.
It's in his own budget.
And you've gone to the White House, or you've talked to Democrats here in the Senate and the House, and but if it's in the president's own budget, why wouldn't they support it?
I'm named official in the Obama administration who's at a cabinet level as recently as today about that issue. And I'm told, no, we won't do it because in the budget it's part of tax increases. So the theory is, I guess, you have to increase taxes on wealthy people in order to cut benefits for wealthy people, which makes no sense. But here's my bigger point. There are lots of areas of common ground where we should be able to get together. Another one I didn't mention is worker retraining that the president will probably talk about tonight. We have a bipartisan bill in the Senate. There's plenty of approaches that are bipartisan to add more skills training to ensure that people can have access to the jobs that are out there, because there is a big skills gap right now. We have 100,000 jobs in Ohio that aren't being filled, and a lot of them require skills. Let's work together on that. So before using the mighty pen to write an executive order instead of signing legislation, try to work with Congress and let's get some stuff done.
But the Senate has passed a bunch of bipartisan things. A bunch of bipartisan items and legislation. And the House Republicans don't pick them up, because the House Republicans basically operate as a, we can operate as a monolith. We just need House Republicans. Speaker Boehner doesn't like to bring up things unless they're going to get a majority of the majority of the Republicans. The Senate, as you know, works in a much more bipartisan way because there aren't 60 Democratic votes, so it has to in many ways. Are these bills? I'm not criticizing the founders.
I mean, this is the way it was set up. So I don't know what examples you're talking about. I guess it would be immigration.
But all those things that the Senate passed, would the House Republicans, would they pass them?
Many have already passed the House. I mentioned regulatory relief because it was something that was passed in the House. There are Democrats who supported it over here in the House. Not many, but enough Democrats to get it through the Senate process. It's bipartisan in the Senate. I'm actually a co-sponsor with another Democrat. We have Republicans and Democrats on it. So the point is, the president needs to use some of his political capital with Democrats to get things done. And if he does that, we can make lots of progress. We're not going to agree on everything, but we can agree on some things. And so rather than making a point of going around, you know, the Congress that was elected by the people, let's follow the constitutional process here and work together to get things done.
And just to circle back on this thing about means testing some parts of Medicare, having wealthier people pay higher premiums, you're saying that the response from Democrats is they wouldn't consider it because the president wants entitlement reform or social safety net program reform to be tied to, they will only do that, Democrats will only do that if Republicans will allow tax increases. And you're saying that doesn't make sense because either way it's basically a tax increase on wealthier Americans.
Right. I mean, the logic that you have to increase taxes on wealthier individuals in order to cut benefits for wealthier people doesn't make a lot of sense. So it's an example of where the administration could say to Democrats, you know what, this one makes sense, it's in my budget, I'm going to give you some political cover on it. Let's make some progress together. It doesn't solve the whole debt problem, but it does begin to take us down the road toward not leaving our kids and grandkids this unconscionable burden of debt and deficit.
And there is the debt ceiling debate coming up where Republicans are going to want something in exchange.
About it today with the administration saying, look, what if we just did this issue? If we actually made some progress on something that's in the 2/3 of the budget, that's on autopilot, that's not appropriated every year. We've done a pretty good job now in reducing the spending on the discretionary spending, which is appropriated every year, but 2/3 of the budget, as you know, Jake, is off budget, and it
automatic.
It's not appropriated every year. It's automatic, and these are the entitlement programs, extremely important programs, but unless they are reformed, they will both bankrupt the country and not be there for future generations to use. So those are the kinds of things that the president wants to engage. There's plenty of room to do it. Plenty of examples. I gave you 5. I'm sure you got a bunch more.
So you're saying for his pen, don't use it for executive orders. Use it to write you a letter and invite you to the White House so you guys can solve this problem.
I don't need to go to the White House, but, you know, at every level, it's not just the president. It's his team.
Yeah.
But it starts at the top. I do think it's a cultural issue. And look, having worked in a couple of White Houses, nobody likes to work with us in Congress. You know, it's kind of a pain sometimes, but that's the way the system is set up. All right. The president cannot make the changes he's talking about making without making legislative changes, unless he wants to go around the Constitution and the Congress. And for that, he should work with us, and we should work with him. I mean, we should be doing things that benefit the American people. Again, we're not going to agree on everything, but there's enough common ground on the issue of economic growth and jobs, and secondly, on debt and deficit. We should work together.
All right, Senator Rob Portman, Republican of Ohio, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Good to see you.